this. I'm sure they have the situation under control, but
it's possible they just don't have the boots on the ground. I mean, to use a military metaphor, in this moment,
that's
to manage this
just
crowd.
unbelievable,
I mean,
though,
there
that
are
they
only a
wouldn't
certain
have
number of actual
any of the people
federal law
there
enforcement.
for
We have
this
the
whole thing,
FBI,
knowing
we have
that
the
they've been
US
calling
Marshal
for this kind of
Service.
shit for 4
We saw
fucking
over the
years.
summer the Department of Justice
Like that they would just like let these people waltz in,
members of the
no
Bureau of
guns,
Prisons,
like straps,
prison guards,
like
ICE,
any of the guards outside,
sort of agents and things
ridiculous.
like that to take action in the context of the Black Lives Matter movement. But so we've got that. We've got a limited federal law enforcement service. We've got then
like, show me the pepper spray. Show me the fucking like the zip ties and like punching the 78-year-old man and making those fuckers bleed.
To the President of the
Like,
United States, I think it's quite interesting, or perhaps disturbing, maybe, that over the weekend we saw 10 former secretaries of defense basically pen a letter that said the military should not be brought in to deal with elections.
Right,
but,
the military shouldn't be brought in to fucking protect the country. Like, what? We're going to send the fucking military overseas to protect oil, but not to protect our own fucking country? Is this really?
Weeks, if not for months, or you could argue from even Donald Trump's 2016 stump speech. There's been violent rhetoric from day one, and historically, that is one of the pages out of authoritarian playbooks. And we're seeing in this moment, Tanya, a fight for American democracy itself. That is what we're seeing. Will we as Americans rally around that form of government or not?
Well, I do want to point out that, Donald Trump, the president's own Twitter feed is sending very confusing messages because, about an hour ago, he tweeted pictures of the protesters outside, in a sort of celebratory manner. Then about a minute ago, he posted a tweet saying,
support our Capitol law enforcement.
Our Capitol
They
Police
are
and
truly
law
on the
enforcement.
side
They
of
are
the country.
truly on the
Stay
side of our
peaceful.
country.
Fuck you,
Stay
asshole.
peaceful. Some would say that's coming a little late, that maybe the message of being peaceful should have been driven home a little earlier, but at least that's somewhat hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, just like we saw with Mitch McConnell's speech, calling for rallying around American democracy itself. It's very unfortunate. As you know, we've talked many times over the years. Some of us have been worried about this moment. There are many pieces, kind of chinks in the armor of American democracy that have happened month after month after month. And we're building up to this moment. The Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, have sat idly by and let it happen. And now some of them are stepping up to the plate. And I hope it's not too late. It's clear Joe Biden will be sworn in on January 20th, but the amount of anger and misinformation in this moment, I think, is going to follow him into his presidency. And we can only hope that the damage done to the guardrails of democracy won't be taken advantage of by a future person who really doesn't want to see democracy survive. Someone like Vladimir Putin, who, as we know, for reports for the past 8 or 9 months, has been hacking and infiltrating over 250 both government and private servers. This is bad news for American democracy, and every American needs to hold hands, Democrats, Republicans, in this moment.
Look at them, they're blowing smoke inside the Capitol.
What? Hope for the survival of American democracy itself. I have confidence we will get there, but I think this is a wake-up call for people, that this division has to end and we have to go back to facts, science, and integrity in government.
These images are pretty stunning, there is no doubt. And CBSN political contributor Molly Hooper joins me now as well. Molly, you've been covering Congress for a long, long time. What is your reaction to these images that we're seeing right now?
It's astonishment. I just can't believe it. Part of me wants to be like up in the middle of it, but the other part of me knows that, what's been going on up on the Capitol ever since the pandemic is that, essentially the Capitol building has been shut off to visitors. So law enforcement has been operating at a much reduced level. Obviously, today was a very important day, but still, they were not expecting a lot of people in the building.
They were not expecting it. What?
What's really remarkable,
like, have you been fucking hiding under a rock the last 4 years? Like, are you fucking dumb?
I don't know how they got in. But,
this is the thing. Like, this has been their fucking thing that they've been pushing for to overturn. You wouldn't have extra security for this?
I sent out a tweet to the effect, I haven't seen that many people congregated in Statuary Hall since before the pandemic. So there's a couple things going on up there, but Really, right now, what's happening is that members are trying to, get to safety. I heard that you read some of the instructions that members' offices have been receiving, but really, it just looks to me like a lot of chaos up on the Hill, and especially this is especially marked
That's what I'm
because
saying, because
we
now
are
more of them
operating
know that
under
it's
these
happening, so
pandemic
the more of them are
restrictions,
showing
which
up.
again does impact the amount of law enforcement that is up on the Hill, and the ability to get more members of the law enforcement up there.
Right. And can you speak to what sort of security exists within the Capitol building when there is a breach or when there is sort of a known danger in the building? What is the protocol exactly? Because, unfortunately, we do live in a world where
he needs to be put to
are
death.
mass
This is
shootings. That's
fucking
not
like
an
this
unknown
is
occurrence.
treason
So
of
there
like the
must be
highest
some
order. He was
protocol
trying
in
to
place
overturn
if
the
something like
election.
that were to
He's
happen at
trying
the
to throw
Capitol. Do you
off our
happen to know what
democratic
it is?
values. All this shit that he's doing right now,
Normally,
this
in
fucking
situations
scene,
where the
like
Capitol
this is
Police
it.
are
Like
aware
this
that
is
there's
what
going
we
to
were
be
trying
sort of
to
a big
protect from,
protest. I take
and he
the
fucking
Brett
brought it
Kavanaugh
in.
hearings, for example. Shortly after Brett Kavanaugh had the allegations of sexual assault and had come out, a lot of protesters had started coming into the Capitol, so law enforcement really needed to beef up, and they did. And they would shut off hallways. They would limit the individual's ability to get into the hearing room, and they would even limit the press's ability to move around. And again, there were a lot of law enforcement people at that time because they didn't have to worry about social distancing and masking and whatnot. And again, you just have to remember the times that we are in now. There hasn't been as much activity up on Capitol Hill. Even when the protesters that we had, the peaceful protesters over the summer, were coming up to the Capitol. Yes, law enforcement did beef up, but I don't think they anticipated the scene that we are seeing unfolding now.
Oh,
we gotta get back inside.
There's a lot of different ways to get into the Capitol, but those entrances, for the most part,
they're pushing
are
through.
locked, or they are guarded by several security people. You have to go through mags.
That's what they were just asking. They were like,
the
do
security
they have never?
systems.
Yeah,
You have to have your
Jesus
bag
Christ.
scanned to go into any building when you go up on Capitol Hill.
So now, oh my
and
God.
each
Look at
door
this.
is monitored and controlled by several Capitol Police people. But if you're having, this looks like hundreds of people trying to get into one location, I don't see how 3 Capitol Police security people can effectively stop that. I mean, we saw the stanchions, just for example, in Statuary Hall, that picture earlier where we saw about, I don't know, a steady flow of maybe 2 columns of people walking through a largely empty room between these roped off stanchions. I mean, for the most part, that's what the Capitol Police were using to blockade reporters from getting to the senators walking over from the Senate to get to the joint session. And again, because there are not any visitors allowed in the Capitol these days, the protocol is a lot different because members of the public are not entering the building. So again, that means that there are fewer doors that are allowed to that are open even to enter and exit the building.
AOC hasn't said anything
and
yet
so
in 3 hours.
I'm going to be interested to see how a lot of these individuals
She's
were
okay,
able
hopefully.
to get into the building, but to the buildings, because once you're in the buildings, say on the House side or the Senate side, the office spaces, you can access the Capitol by going underground.
Right.
So again, there's different access points to the Capitol, but in the past there have been shootings inside the Capitol. Back in 1998, an armed man came through one of the entrances on the east front of the Capitol and got through to Tom DeLay's office. He shot and killed two Capitol Police people before he was subdued. Yeah.
So, Molly, I want to bring in now CBS News reporter Christina Ruffini. She is there. You are at the Capitol, correct, Christina? What is the latest you can tell us? Is it we are hearing reports of a gun potentially having been shot? Is there anything more you can tell us?
I will be at the Capitol shortly. We've been trying to make our way across the city. This all happened relatively quickly. I'm inside of the Capitol, and what we're hearing as we came across the city, we were basically following behind emergency vehicles. You can hear sirens coming from all quadrants of the city converging on Capitol Hill. Now, as we pulled up to the south side of the Capitol, we saw a lot of Trump supporters in Trump gear with flags. Just kind of, you can hear the sirens behind me. sorry, and that's an emergency alert on my phone. And now that just went through announcing that D.C. is going into a 6 p.m.
Where's the
curfew.
fire? Like, show me the
So what
fucking
you're seeing
fire
on these
hose,
buses, you're seeing a lot of
like
Trump
that they used
supporters,
on the black
but
people in the
it's fairly
50s to
calm.
like
They're
keep
kind
get
of
them
casually
moving.
walking. We see a
Show
lot
me
of
the
bills
barking
up,
dogs.
American flags.
Show me the pepper
But again,
spray.
we're not
Show me the
quite
fucking
at the
tear
Capitol
gas.
yet, and all the
Anything
law
that
enforcement
we had to
part that
suffer
we're
through,
seeing are heading
they
in
should
that
have to
direction.
suffer through. This is like the most bullshit
All right. Well,
thing ever
Christina,
here.
thank you so much. And, I'm sure we're going to check in with you a little bit later now. We're going to take you over now to CBS News Network. They are going to be doing a special report.
Look at you,
on
like
this.
they're walking around in their little
with
Patagonia,
Norah
like it's a little
O'Donnell.
fucking
Let's listen
date.
in.
We're just here overthrowing
threatening
America.
minorities
No
who are
big
moving
deal.
into the
Hey, you
Capitol,
bring your kids.
quite clearly ignoring
Like, bro, you're
the suggestions and the orders from Capitol Police and other
like,
authorities.
this is our
breaching
cousin
barriers,
Dale,
going
the
up
fucking
steps, crashing
Unabomber.
through
Hey,
doors, or
Dale,
attempting
like
to do
these
that.
are our kids.
That
Like,
is an act
it's a
of
big
violence.
fucking shit show here. Welcome
Pure
to
and
ISIS
simple. And it
2.0.
is separate from those who are assembling peaceably to express their
Bro,
displeasure.
this makes
But
me
it
sick.
must be noted
Look at that, and they're fucking
that
sticking
this is
shit to the walls
Americans
now,
trying to
nation.
take control and lay under
Of
siege the
sheep
capital
results
of the United
in
States
a government
government.
of wolves.
And
Oh
that is
yeah,
a fact.
of course.
And you
Look where
cannot
you're standing,
separate their
asshole.
motives
Who are
and
the
their
wolves
actions
and who are the
from
like?
rhetoric of the
Why would you be
president.
like?
He can
What
talk about
comparison
respecting
is
Capitol
that?
Police now, but that's
Like
not what
people
he was
that use
saying
the
this morning.
animalistic
It's not what
fucking
he's been
like
saying for
comparison
weeks.
things.
All right,
It's like
let's go to
Hitler
Nancy
when he would
Cordes now
compare
with new
Jewish people to
information. She's our
rats.
chief congressional correspondent, Nancy.
Like sheep and wolves. That's the
Nora,
same
we're now
fucking
hearing from
ideology. Get the fuck
reporters
out of
who
here, man. These people are so
locked
stupid.
inside the Senate chamber that the protesters have breached the Senate chamber itself. So they're no longer just inside the U.S. Capitol. They're actually inside the Senate chamber, which, as you recall, was went into recess a few minutes ago when all of this started. And according to at least one reporter inside the chamber, a protester has actually climbed up on the dais
Maybe.
and is
The 13 colony
chanting
thing could
slogans
also
in
be
favor
the
of
don't tread
President
on me
Trump.
thing with
So
the
what we
broken,
don't know
because it was
is
the
whether
segmented
senators and reporters
snake,
who are inside the
which they
chamber
said
right now
we have to
are
all
being
come as
escorted
one
out,
to be the
being
snake.
shown someplace else to go to stay safe. I had texted a senator a few minutes ago to ask, where are you? What are you being told to do in order to stay safe? And he responded, I can't tell you anything, because obviously this is such a tense situation that lawmakers are being told not to give any information.
Police have guns
about
drawn.
where
We are
they're
hiding
being
behind
taken
tables and chairs.
and the
Oh
measures
my
that are being
God.
taken to keep them safe. So it's a very fluid situation.
Police- we are
and,
hiding behind
and one
tables
in
and
which,
chairs in the House
frankly,
gallery.
A lot of reporters and lawmakers
She's the
are
Politico.
are finding themselves
They're
thrown
inside
together
there still.
in the same office spaces and certainly within the same Senate chamber to try to huddle in place together, because
Funny how they're still
there are just
protesters
only
and
so
not
many
rioters,
places
huh?
that you can
Yep,
go in
exactly.
the U.S. Capitol and lock the door to keep yourself separated from whoever else is outside.
Bro.
Our Zach Hudak is inside the Senate chamber. Thank you, the House chamber. Thank you. He's inside.
Look at that,
the
like
House
this. I feel like I'm watching a
where,
fucking like Gangs of New York
protesters
scene or
have
something. Like
breached
this is.
the doors there, where that joint session.
They're like
of
being
Congress
gentle
was
with each
being
other.
held
Like
earlier.
fucking like
Trying to
actually
get
swing your
Zach on
baton.
the
Like you want to
phone.
crack some skulls. Like they're black people. God damn.
It is a tense situation. This is
Leave them all. Uh-oh, sick.
Look at this.
Here we go. They're breaking in through the Senate chamber now.
That's like a big bang.
Unclear what that sound
I
is.
hope so, man. I hope they put
Whether
them all
it's
down.
just-
That's what they need to do.
yes.
If they don't, if
One
they
of the
do anything less than that, then
we have at this hour is
the
where
cops are
is
breaking in
the
to stop the
National
protesters, but the
Guard,
protesters
which
are
is,
still trying to break
deployed
into.
by governors. It's been deployed in Maryland, for instance, to help with vaccine distribution. It's helped during hurricanes. In this instance, in the District of Columbia, the Secretary of the Army plays the role there. And the question is when the National Guard will be arriving to help with this situation. Ed O'Keefe.
To secure the Capitol and reclaim these buildings so they can exist as they ordinarily do. This is extraordinary. This is completely out of ordinary, and these buildings need to be reoccupied and secured.
Right.
So Congress can conduct the business of the American government.
Right. We can convey again, senators have been evacuated
From the chamber.
From the chamber, and
Okay.
they are being moved to a third location, I'm told. they will be bussed. So it could be that they're removing them off of the Capitol complex.
Yeah, I am texting with a senator now who says they cannot tell us where because of security, but will.
Oh, Sarah Cooper, why'd you
here,
jinx
again,
2021
this is the west
already?
front of the Capitol, faces the National Mall. Where
She's
the
like, so far I'm really
happens.
feeling
Those guys
2021
in
4
yellow
hours
up at
ago,
the
and then
top
she's
are
like,
the
Jesus
ones
Christ, I
that
jinxed
are
it.
law enforcement beginning to clear
The Confederate
what is
flag is
supposed
now
to be an
hanging
inaugural
outside the
stand
Senate
and
chamber.
trying to
Jesus
diffuse
Christ,
the
bro.
situation and
push
try to
things
restore
down
order.
a little bit
Exactly.
and get a little bit of breathing space for the majestic Capitol building, so it can.
And Mitch McConnell now is going to get to like
process of
be on the
reclaiming
sidelines saying
its
like
own
he didn't have anything to do with
territory,
this. Like
reclaiming its own order of
fucking
business.
like Lindsey
Inside
Graham,
the Capitol,
Ted
again,
Cruz,
Statuary Hall,
fucking
we
Jim
said a
Jordan,
while ago,
all
we
these
saw the people
assholes are going to
walking
still
through with
keep
the
their
statues
jobs,
around
and
it.
it's these
The old House
fuckers that are
chamber.
going to go to
There were
jail and go
cameras in
away.
there. Remember we were
But
showing
it's
you
those
images.
assholes that
C-SPAN
were the
says
ones
the
that were
Capitol
pushing this
Police
shit in the
has
first
told
place.
them
They need to be held
vacate that
accountable
area,
just as much as these
and
dumb
someone
fucks.
had unplugged their cameras in Statuary Hall. Unclear if that was law enforcement or the protesters, but we know that
I want to see
tense situation
siren
inside the Capitol,
that the
in the
deafening
area of the House chamber,
like the thing that just goes
we're
off
working,
and
obviously, to get
bleeds
more
everybody's
Our chief
eardrums.
political correspondent John Dickerson notes that these protesters
They-
are now
I know about the heat
on
ray,
the
but I'm saying they don't even
inaugural
need
steps
that.
where
Right now,
President
they just
Trump
need the
4 years
siren.
ago gave a speech
That'll be
about
enough. That would
American
disperse.
carnage.
And said he would give the government back to the people.
They
That
said they're
is,
going
as
underneath
he
the
described
tunnels
it in
and
that
evacuate land. They
inauguration
got a
address,
car
this
going through. Man,
grouping in Washington of Republicans and Democrats and lobbyists who had deprived Americans of their economic wherewithal, that would end. And that was a resonant language for these protesters. But we have gone far beyond rhetoric. We have gone to incitement. We've gone to occupation. We've gone to a place of, I think it's fair to say, astonishment.
Yeah.
These are images we never expected to see in our great country. A cleavage,
our
a
great
ripping
country.
apart
Shit,
of
man,
the
it's not
sense
a
of
great
what
country at
government
all.
is,
This is-
what it's meant to accomplish, and how it is
This is our
sanctified
country.
in every presidential election.
And
That's what is now being torn apart before our very eyes, or there is an
Wow.
attempt to tear it apart before our very eyes.
Also notably, up in Wilmington, Delaware, the president-elect Joe Biden was scheduled to
surprised
speak.
my Twitter
and is
account
actually
hasn't
at the
been banned
location
yet.
where he is scheduled to speak, but has not yet spoken. As for the vice president-elect Kamala Harris,
yeah, they're all saying Twitter
transition
needs to shut
officials
down his account
won't
right
comment
now.
on her exact location, but the president-elect is safe. One of them tells our Tim Perry, a producer who follows her. She was in the at the Capitol earlier today for a Senate Intelligence Committee briefing, but was not planning to attend the Electoral College ceremonies that were scheduled to take place.
I want to bring in back Nancy Cordes, who is on Capitol Hill. And Nancy, there are extraordinarily disturbing images of what, after viewing them, I would describe now as a mob fighting with law enforcement right underneath the Capitol Rotunda. What are you seeing and hearing?
Nora, we're getting some really good eyewitness information from our colleague Grace Seegers, who was actually inside the Senate chamber covering the debate when all of this happened. She said that she has been evacuated with the senators from the chamber. She said they're going to another building on foot, and that there's a huge security presence. She says authorities first evacuated the senators and then said that the press could go too, and they took the elevators down from the Senate gallery in order to avoid protesters. One thing you'll know if you've covered the U.S. Capitol for any period of time is that there are a huge number of back hallways and hidden elevators and different ways to get in and out of these buildings. So it appears that that is what U.S. Capitol Police did, escorting senators out of the Senate chamber in order to keep them safe. I have been texting with one of those senators and asked, are you and everyone around you safe and uninjured? And he responded, yes. He said Capitol Police first secured the Senate when the Capitol was breached and then evacuated us elsewhere. He says as far as he knows, everyone around him is safe right now, but he can't tell me where he is now because he's been instructed not to share his location for obvious security reasons.
Nancy, what's happening now at the dais in the House chamber?
Well, the reporting from our Zach Hudak, who's been in the House chamber, is that lawmakers were told to get under their desks and to look for masks that had been placed there, gas masks, because there was a possibility of tear gas.
A possibility of
tear
gas. Well, that's convenient. Like when it was fucking signs and people asking not to be killed by the police, they had no problem bringing out tear gas. But when our fucking state capitol is under attack, maybe.
Here. The House chamber has gone in and out of session.
I don't know about that,
times.
That's a step too far.
They've been debating, and then the Capitol was breached, and they went into recess. But then they started.
I keep commenting
again,
death to Trump on fucking
the protesters
Twitter.
got closer to the House chamber, and so they went into recess again. Then they were told to get under their desks. So just by watching,
fucking Ted Cruz, violence is always unacceptable. Even 12 minutes ago, this bitch needs to be put down worse than all of them. Ted Cruz is like the most loathsome fucking human being I could ever imagine to be. He not only let Trump talk shit about his wife, he then fucking continues to be his little bitch. Like on stage, everywhere he goes, man, I just think like that is it. Like that is like the lowest fucking scumbag. Like Trump's a piece of shit, right? But if you're actually willing to fucking like kiss up to that after he's like desecrated you, like in front of everybody, man, fuck you, dude. Like you don't deserve any kind of redemption. Oh, they just broke the glass on the front. Oh, now they're pushing in. Here it comes. Well, I mean, this is taking a really long time. Like, I thought you all.
Is really astounding. These doors were not built all that long ago.
All right, I want to show you now, this is the east front of the Capitol, which is across from the Supreme Court. On the west front of the Capitol is where the inaugural stage is
fucking
set
defense
2 weeks from now
budget
for the inauguration
in the world
President-elect Joe
trampled
Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
By an
this is where you see a
RV
number of
fucking
protesters
park.
as well as police there, and what appears to be
Bro, like seriously,
more of just sort of people
you
moving
let
about and standing about
that
there.
gap tooth,
What is the
like
deep
those
concern
idiots
is what's
with their
happening
little
inside the
guns
United
and their
States
fucking
Capitol right
like
now.
sad
It's
beliefs.
what we noted on the Senate floor and the House floor, and of course the number of lawmakers and the DC
oh
Capitol
my God,
Police
I'm just
who are
like,
concerned about their own safety. The President of the United States was tweeting about the courage of the Vice President today. At this hour, we've not heard from the Vice President, who we don't know where he is at this hour. He is in an undisclosed location. And there are calls even from the President's own former White House Communications Director, Alyssa Farah, to condemn this violence, saying, "Real Donald Trump, you are the only one they will listen to for our country." Once again, a question about the leadership of this country and
the vacuum that exists at this moment. The vacuum presided by the President of the United States. I've had texts from several Republicans, I imagine perhaps you have as well, Ed, amplifying what Alyssa Farah just said. The President needs to issue a tweet, put a video up very quickly saying, get out of the Capitol, peaceably assemble, and stop this violence. Nothing from the President, nothing except that anodyne reference to let's support our Capitol Police. That's not sufficient. You set this in motion, you must stop it. But the other underlying and alarming reality of that is the idea that the President can directionally influence this small mob that has breached the Capitol.
Small mob? Why is he downplaying this?
About this scenario. That they are so devoted to him that they will do things of this nature, which we should underscore. This kind of action, breaking glass, coming into the Capitol, menacing Capitol Police, is a crime. They have committed crimes, and they should be prosecuted.
They've committed crimes.
And once the Capitol is secured,
whoever this fucking like person speaking right now, they need to get off.
The President is now being asked by those who served him faithfully to bring this to an end. Via Twitter video, something. Fill this vacuum that you have created that has created so much disturbance and unrest in our nation's capital.
And to that concern about a vacuum, a senior aide to the President-elect,
Defense
Joe
Department
Biden tells me, quote, he's going to speak to the events at the Capitol. I asked when, he said soon. He was already scheduled to speak this afternoon from a theater in downtown Wilmington, Delaware, about 90 minutes from Washington. Now they're changing the plans, and he will speak to what's going on right now at the Capitol. And the other extraordinary thing we have to keep in mind, by law, they're going to have to finish this proceeding of the House and Senate at some point. There is nothing in the law as written A, that outlines
There we
this,
go.
No.
but B, that
Wow.
outlines when you can take breaks for that
Look at
matter.
that
You
picture.
can go into recess.
Right.
Look at
But
that
we
picture.
are
Gotta get back on
literally,
track.
we are literally right now. So
You
much
see-
of the last 4
yeah, I
years
have it on my
has
screen.
been within
Oh
the
my
confines
God,
of the rules and
that's
the laws,
fucking-
as much of a
Can I
pressure
blow that
point
up?
as they've been. This is literally not.
I'm
because
on
at
on
some
Twitter,
point they gotta
and there's
come
like
back
so
and
there's
finish
different
this.
pictures that
And
are
they're going
being
to have to do it
shown.
in some kind
I'll
of
send it to you.
decorous way, or at least organized way, and it's just incredible to think they might have to come back and do that later tonight with the Capitol under incredible security protection.
Under the law, I'm advised just by our excellent executive producer, Jay Shaler, they can recess until 10 a.m. tomorrow and reconvene.
Well, they may
Under
have
the
to.
law, and that may be where this heads. However, I can imagine some lawmakers would say, no, we're going to clear this, we're going to get this straightened out, and we're going to go back to work. Because we're not going to withdraw for an entire day and night. I can imagine a very
That's what I'm
lively
saying.
conversation going on wherever they're able to have a conversation, however they're able to have it. But some institutional lions in the Senate and lionesses will say in the House, no, we're going to go back to work. We're going to set this right, and we're going to go back to work. I can imagine that debate going on. However it plays out, that they can recess, but I can imagine a very strong impulse within both bodies to get back to work.
Major, you keep anticipating things that are happening. Our Grace Seegers passes along. She's our producer who is in and around where senators are currently being held. She reports we've been told that the Senate, wherever they are right now, and it's just extraordinary to have to say things like this, is doing a roll call. Only one reporter is allowed in the room right now. It is not a representative of the television pool. But again, the Senate is doing at least some kind of a formal attendance taking to see who's there. Remember, they could meet as a body wherever they are.
Yes.
If they have a quorum, which it appears they might.
And in this virtual world influenced so much by pandemic protocols, these things have been learned. And so they may, in a very strange and unexpected way, provide a means by which a quorum can be assembled and they can get back to work.
Yeah, and I'm actually texting with our political correspondent and 60 Minutes correspondent John Dickerson about that very matter, that the senators who have objected and the House members who have objected to what is normally a very quick counting of the electoral votes. In years past, it's been done in 10 or 20 minutes. They could stop their objecting and move this on very quickly, and thus nothing there for anybody to protest. The process is done.
Look at this fucking
Right.
moron
They can
that's
also
standing in
go
front of
on
the shot.
Twitter and
Move
say,
this idiot.
All objections will be withdrawn unless you leave the Capitol. If you occupy the Capitol, we will no longer go forward with this. You cannot negotiate with the Congress by occupying it. You
What is
simply
this
cannot.
And then look at this person that's
And
like
that is
trying to
something
jump
they could
off
also
the side,
do.
or they
Ted Cruz
brought
could
him
do
up.
that. Josh Hawley could do that.
Well,
They're
and
climbing
James
up.
Langford could
Hold
do
on,
that.
we have Zach Hudak on the phone. Zach, tell us what you're seeing.
They're climbing up.
Just in the House chamber where they just evacuated us and
Look at them. They're climbing up the side of the wall.
There were what we believe were protesters who were trying to knock in sort of the center doors in that chamber.
These bitches are so unathletic too. They can't climb for shit.
They were holding it shut and had guns drawn and aimed at the door. And shortly before they took us out, we were able to.
I'm about to set my Christmas tree on fire.
A gunshot or some other kind of loud bang. Members
No,
and
I'm just gonna
press
burn
were
it.
given gas masks because Capitol Police said that tear gas had been used around the rotunda area of the Capitol.
Hey, Zach, this is Major Garrett. Nora stepped away for just a second, so let me engage you, if I could, for just a moment. What are you doing and seeing as you are right now, and where, if you can, I know that you are under some requirements not to be too specific, but if you can give a general sense of where you are and what's happening immediately around you, do you feel in danger in any sense?
Gunshots are going off in the Capitol now.
Being taken to a safe area and moved very efficiently by the Capitol Police, who were extremely on top of things. The only point at which I think everyone got a little bit nervous was when there was that literal banging, trying to knock in the doors that were being held by the cabinet.
Do you have any? Go ahead, Ed, jump in.
Zach, take us back to what was going on in the House chamber itself. There are conflicting reports about whether guns were drawn and used or whether there were other barricades put in place to keep people out. What can you tell us, having been in the room?
What are they deleting?
I
They
can tell you
delete. What are they
that,
deleting
guns
now?
were
You can
drawn,
already.
handgun, and there were, I believe, 2 of them.
That's what I'm. They
By who?
deleted
Majority were
it. Somebody
Capitol
deleted
Police,
something.
they were pointed out that door that as I said, protesters trying to knock in. We did hear what appeared to be a gunshot in the distance. It was some kind of loud bang. And there was just kind of general commotion. I think that, like, as soon as that door started getting knocked, everyone, the members and their staff included, were worried and, we're trying to get up there as soon as possible.
And from your vantage point, Zach, in the House chamber, did you see anyone injured or hurt in any way?
No.
Okay.
No.
And there were still members in the chamber when this happened, correct?
What?
Members of Congress?
There were. There were, but they were taken out sort of as soon as you started being able to
They,
hear noises right outside.
They were like taking pictures of their screens that were left open, and like
Earlier
on the
in the
screens
proceedings,
are, like,
was the Speaker of the
images
House
that
still
say, "Get
presiding?"
out," like, because it's
she was.
being,
And
the
was she
Capitol's
escorted
being
out
stormed.
first?
I believe so, but from
Like, so
where I was sitting in
the
gallery, I
staffers, everybody
couldn't,
working,
tell
like, they're like,
for
get out, go, you gotta go. They
I
like
believe
just
the
got
first
up
one
out of
to
their
be
chairs
taken
and
out
left,
was,
and it's like on
Representative
they're taking
Porter
pictures of the
when,
screen. Here, I'm just gonna take a picture.
when there was
The majority leader.
Like, they had to move so fast that they just got up and left.
And Zach, the members who had objected, the some 100 members, they did not want to stay inside the House chamber?
They did not, and in fact, as we went into
And it's like, if you
lockdown,
zoom in on the thing, it
one man
says,
who was sitting
it's
up
like,
on the other side of the
emergency,
gallery
get out,
looking down,
evacuate.
pulled up his mask and started yelling to them, tell the president to call this off or something along those lines. He was sort of hushed up pretty quickly, but there was certainly blame put on them, at least from one guy in the room.
Zach, stand by. We have some new reporting right now. We have been told by a senior source that Mayor Bowser has requested an additional 200 National Guard troops, that request is under review by the Pentagon. It has not been denied, but is under review at this hour.
Like, this
that
reminds me of,
the
like,
mayor
when
of
you're
DC,
saying
who
that,
has
like, if
imposed a 6 p.m. curfew,
when, like, the ambulance,
is requesting
like, you don't want to be the
additional
one that said
federal
no for the
assistance
ambulance,
from
like,
the National Guard
they're like,
at this point.
we don't know
Normally,
about
a governor would just call in
the
the National Guard, but in
yet.
the
Like,
District
is it
of
really
Columbia,
needed
the
yet?
Secretary of
Like,
the Army
these are the
serves
fuckers,
as the
like,
governor.
So, to
letting
our
this shit
conversation moments ago about what will be the voice of those who are objecting and want to use Congress to superimpose itself on the will of the states as expressed through the Electoral College. One has spoken via Twitter. Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin. I'll read it directly. The Capitol Police have acted with incredible professionalism. I sincerely thank them for their service and condemn all lawless activity.
And Marco Rubio.
That's moving in a direction, slowly. It is moving in a direction.
What direction do you think that it's moving in?
To describe this as what it is, lawless criminal activity by a few to breach the Capitol and attempt to occupy it in order to slow down this process.
Well, Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida, went further in a similar tweet. There is nothing patriotic about what is occurring on Capitol Hill, he tweeted. This is third world style anti-American anarchy. And he's not wrong.
He is correct. And this needs to be said by more, with greater volume and more regularity. This is a moment. This is a bright, shining moment for every Republican, every Democrat, but especially those Republicans who've associated themselves in word and in deed with this effort to challenge the election and challenge the Congress's counting of the electoral votes.
I want to bring in John Dickerson now, who joins us on the phone. And John, for those who say that this moment is unimaginable, that this couldn't happen, does that ring true to you?
No. We've been waiting.
Well, there were plenty of people who could imagine it on election night when the president suggested that the election had been stolen. And then day by day by day, we saw the power the president had over his supporters, so powerful it cowed many in his own party, and that there are millions of people who believe this. And so many people see a direct line from the president's remarks immediately after the election to what's happening now. And in the American system, the president is the one who is supposed to cool the passions of the people. That has been completely turned on its head. And just to pick up on Major's point, the stage is set for someone to walk on and behave in the way that's in the best American tradition to cool the passions, to act as the adult in this process. It might be one person, it might be a whole score of people, but that's the next big chapter. And the question is, who walks into that role that is waiting for them?
And to pick up on John's point, could this be anticipated? Well, On CBS This Morning about a month ago, I quoted Winston Churchill, who said the following: "You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth." Republicans have put their head in the mouth of Donald Trump, the President of the United States, for 6 weeks, hoping that this wouldn't come. But on social media, as recently as 48 hours ago, you could see people saying, "I'm attending this, I'm looking for ways into the Capitol, I've figured out corridors, etc., etc." This was, sad to say, theoretically imaginable. That it is actually playing out is the thing that shocks us so much. That we never thought it would actually come to this, but it is consistent with rhetoric set in motion by the president and not manifestly rejected at the beginning by Republicans who were in the place to do so.
And John, who's still with us, the rhetoric of the president, too, in terms of inciting and keeping these embers of angst burning, has now erupted in the United States Capitol. What culpability do some of the lawmakers have who also objected to that? Real quick, Major has something. What are you going to say?
I'm going to read a tweet from the president 1 minute ago. Quote, "I am asking everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, period. No violence, exclamation point. Remember, we, all in capitals, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you."
And now the president trying to reel back in a mob that has been unleashed.
Trying to do what he should have done moments ago, hours ago, perhaps weeks ago. When you said, Nora, about, I can't remember, an hour and a half ago, the president tweeted, "It's going to be a wild one." What do you think that means? How do you think that's interpreted by the people who are on the Capitol steps? A wild one. That's suggesting to them that wildness is encouraged by the most powerful person in America, the President of the United States.
And so, John, when you incite it by suggesting weeks ago that it's going to be a wild one, can you just tweet it away? Can you just put all this stuff back in a bottle and expect it to disappear?
You know, you can't do that any more than you could during the rallies in 2015 and 2016 when the president would encourage his supporters to take care of, by physical force, those who showed up at his rallies and protested. This isn't just happening today. This is a long history of consistent behavior by the president, and so this comes in as the last ugly sentence in a long series of chapters between the president and this kind of behavior. This is just the ugliest manifestation of it.
And how many of these supporters are looking at the president's Twitter feed and following it loyally, as if when he'd said, you know, end the protest, that all of a sudden they would remove themselves from inside the Capitol?
Well, I'll let John answer that first, and then I'll take a swing after he does.
Well, I would just say, and Major knows this in his bones because he spent so much time talking to them and has been with them. The people to whom this is the greatest offense are those people who feel alienated from their country and who might have voted for Donald Trump and who wanted to see a different outcome in the election. And they are the ones who are being besmirched by this and by the incitement of it. And so that, I think, you all have been quite careful to point out that the ones who are breaking the glass and banging on the doors are a very small minority, and they are now defining a large number of people.
I'm getting this now from a high-ranking member of the Sergeant of Arms office who was outside, said he was tear-gassed, said he's never seen anything like this, and we are fully losing the battle. They breached the West Front, and they just took the East Front. We witnessed that, but I read it again out loud because there it is, the tear gas and the question about, which Chris first spotted. We thought that the police and authorities were using it against the protesters. It appears it might have been used against our law enforcement.
Chemical irritants used by some of the protesters to push back or to repel Capitol Police or those with the Sergeant of Arms office, which is part of the governing body of the House of Representatives itself. There's a separate governing body for the United States Senate. But to pick up on John's point, and to answer your question directly, Nora, there's a very, very tight feedback loop between the president's supporters and what the president says, tighter than any I've ever seen in American politics. They do vector off what he says closely and almost by the minute. And in this scenario, what the president just tweeted, I do believe will have a pacifying effect. I'm just telling you, and the nation, it's too late.
I just cannot underscore the tension that exists in many parts of the United States Capitol right now. You're likely feeling it at home by what you're seeing, and the deep concerns among those in positions of authority to make sure we get this right and that the situation does not escalate. I reported just a short time ago that based on a source and a defense official that there has been a request by the mayor of D.C. for 200 additional National Guardsmen, and it is currently under review. No decision has been made. The concern, of course, is about any future confrontation.
Right.
Can this just quickly de-escalate without an image of what appeared to be, while they're National Guard, what some people may look and think is active duty, that sort of image would then create, not only domestically, but certainly by our foreign adversaries. And so the people in positions of great power that control the levers of national security are weighing this with the utmost seriousness. You now have Senator Ted Cruz, who helped unleash some of this and fuel some of this anger, now also tweeting out, "Calm down, time to end this," as has been pointed out. The question is whether these senators and others who hold the levers of power want to courageously step forward and move this towards an end. And I think the leadership, as you mentioned, the vacuum that exists, that Senator McConnell tried to exert earlier today, is one that people are watching.
Ted Cruz
who now steps into
and
this
Josh
leadership?
Hawley could say, this will end if you don't get out of the Capitol. We will stop this unless you get out of the Capitol. This is no way to conduct our business. They could do that. I wait to see what their actual response will be. But to your point, Nora, and it is so important, for all sorts of institutional reasons, for historic reasons, for image reasons, the Capitol Police would like to be in a position to take back this situation on its own and not ask for the National Guard to come onto the Capitol grounds and essentially repel protesters who have breached the Capitol. No. The Capitol Police would like to be able to do that and exert its own authority, but they may be wholly outnumbered and incapable of doing that.
Just a quick update from the D.C. Fire Department. We're hearing that they have responded and transported at least 2 to 3 people with injuries, and that they are now looking into reports of shots fired at the Capitol now. Let's bring in Nancy Cordes, who is still on Capitol Hill. Nancy?
And Nora, the House Minority Leader, Republican Kevin McCarthy, confirmed just a few minutes ago that shots have been fired inside the Capitol building. He didn't say by whom. It's not clear whether he knows by whom, but multiple reporters have said that they've seen at least one person being carried out of the Capitol on a stretcher, covered in what appeared to be blood. So, we don't know if that was a protester or a police officer. Obviously, this is a completely fluid event. And take a look at this. This is the crypt of the U.S. Capitol. And what you're looking at is essentially hand-to-hand combat between Capitol police officers and these protesters who appear to be trying to storm that area of the Capitol as police officers try to keep them back. That area is called the Crypt because it was originally designed to be the final resting place for George Washington before he decided that actually he would rather be laid to rest at his beloved Mount Vernon. But it is an area on the first floor of the Capitol, and I'm just speculating here, but it's likely that police were trying to keep the protesters out of this area because there are spaces in the bowels of the Capitol where lawmakers can be taken to be kept safe. And police probably didn't want these protesters getting any closer to the basement of the Capitol than they already were.
Nancy, those were photos from inside the House chamber as you were speaking there, in case anyone's curious about where exactly that was taken. Those were, there you go.
This here, yeah, before it was the crypt.
That is in essence
Wow.
the front door of the House chamber itself. There are members, this was taken earlier. One of our colleagues reports from somebody that was in that chamber, and of course we talked to Zach Hudak earlier, that among other things, no protester got inside the House chamber during this dramatic altercation. But at one point, the House chaplain went to the podium and offered a prayer saying, "Pray for the safety of all, including the Capitol Police, and that all can work together for our country." Just a dramatic day inside the Capitol.
It's incredibly dramatic, and many people may recognize those doors from the